Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz, and on the show, I always interview really interesting business leaders who are doing some game-changing work. And I'm so excited to have Gary Mittman, who's the CEO of KERV Interactive, and we're going to have a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Gary.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. We're back into 2022, back in the grind again. so, um, as you've probably heard, because you listen to the podcast, I ask the same question every single time, kick everything off, and I'm always fascinated by the answers. So, Gary, what was your first job?
So thank you for asking. It's really fun to be here. After having listened to all these other people, it's kind of neat to be on the seat, as they say. So my first job was actually, I started in the mailroom at a record company that was called Arista Records. And I was the West Coast assistant for a guy named Clive Davis, who was CEO and president of the company.
Just some regular guy named Clive Davis. Yeah. Yeah.
It was really quite an entertaining experience, I have to say. I was a young guy in my early 20s and dealing with superstar celebrities on a daily basis in managing a lot of different things. But one of the key components that I was able to leverage by doing that was reading the communications. So when I would be transporting contracts to lawyers' offices, remember back then there was no email and there was barely even a fax when I started doing this. And so I would actually pull over and read contracts before I delivered them, and got a really good understanding of the back end of the industry and business and how it worked. And it was quite insightful.
Oh wow! I mean, to have your first job working for Clive Davis is pretty freaking cool. Not even gonna lie. And to actually sit there and read the contract.
I can give you a kind of a fun story if you want.
Go for it.
One of the things that he, as you may know, he discovered really Whitney Houston and started her career from. And when she was just starting, he had a cocktail party here in Los Angeles in a small group and invited only industry premium people, and had a pianist play, and she sang with the piano player. And it was the most amazing experience I think I've ever seen. The woman just were off the charts. And it was such a lovely thing to see. And being in the position I was in, I got to go to a lot of fun stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, you must have stories for days.
I do.
That's incredible. Okay, so you go for working for Clive Davis as your first job, to now being CEO of KERV Interactive. So what has that career journey been like?
It's been interesting. So when I left the music industry, actually the record company, and got a new job at a music publishing company. It was called Chapel Music. And I started doing song sales and selling songs and catalogs and that sort of thing. And then after that, a cousin of mine was kind of a legend in the music industry himself, a guy named Gary Mittman. He was opening a nightclub in Manhattan in the city. And I was in LA, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, you want to come manage and run the club for me?" I was in my 20s, and I thought, well, gee, let's see. Go to New York and run a nightclub in the 80s? That sounds like a lot.
So, yeah, just maybe.
And ran to New York and ran a nightclub. It was called the Ritz in the city. You might know it today as Webster Hall.
Oh my gosh.
We did, the primary business was about concerts. So we had all the top tier artists coming. One of our dilemmas, I ran all the booking. One of the dilemmas was that we couldn't compete with the big promoters in the city in New York, Don Cher, Ron Gelsner, all these guys. So there was a new network that was blossomed called MTV at the time. And I was able to get the head of programming at MTV, a guy named Chip Rockland, got him to come to a show and envision having 4 or 5 cameras and filming it. And he thought, oh my God, what a great idea. So we created a live concert series called Live at the Ritz on MTV. And that enabled me to then get all the UK bands in the 80s to be their first stop. When they booked with us to do the live MTV show, then they could book the balance of their tour because we gave them 50 million households. So it was a very interesting time and evolution. Lots and lots of fun doing that.
That must have been just the most unusual, like, energy packed time. Like MTV's growing, just starting. You got all these acts. Like, how did you ever sleep?
No. Wink, wink. It was the '80s, and not many people slept. But the time period was really progressive in that I had a good span of artists. So we would do shows with hard punk bands like Agnostic Front and really, really hardcore punk bands. But we would also do shows. We had Tina Turner's comeback for 3 nights. We had Sting's first solo show, Away from the Police. We had a good variety of shows. So it was really an interesting spectrum to see and really enjoy the 80s and the blossoming different music categories that were happening.
Wow. All right. So you're just killing it everywhere. And so how do we get the KERV Interactive?
Right. So this is an interesting, I'll shorten a long story. So we sold the club to Polygram Entertainment, John Scher. And I moved back to California and got involved in more TV production because I was enjoying television. Started producing infomercials. At the time, it was a new thing in the early 90s, half-hour television. And got picked up by a company called Western Media to be their vice president of infomercial half hours. And I started doing that job for 5 years and running it. And in the interim of that, this thing called internet started blossoming. And I was most intrigued. I'm like, what is this? This is where I need to be. So I ended up jumping ship and doing a few small startups in the digital space. I built a small company that did a interactive video solution way back then through 28 baud modems and 30 frames.
Oh, wow.
But we sold that company. I opened another company called Name Media that we did pretty well. I had that for 14 years. Sold that one to Lin Media, which is now Nexstar. And then my 30-year best friend, a guy named Dan Bienenfeld, came to me with this KERV technology he found. And he said, yeah, what do you think of this? And we both had done a few exits and were in a pretty good position. So he said, let's just buy this tech and build a business. And I'm like, I'm in, let's do it. So
wow.
we got the technology. We started looking at building out the team, and we were lucky enough, because of my sale to Lin Media, to have relationships with people in Austin, Texas, who were in the interact or the video digital space. So I went down to Austin, met with a bunch of people who I knew, and said, hey, you guys want to jump ship from your billion-dollar company Cush Gig to a startup and have some fun? And they said, yeah. So we started building out the team in Austin, Texas. And we now have 40 people in the company. And we opened a New York sales office with this guy, Jay Wolf, who's amazing. And we're blossoming and growing from there.
Wow. So what makes y'all so special?
I was going to make a bad joke. No,
Gary, you're my kind of guy.
What makes KERV Interactive so unique and different is the method and the development of core patent, which was created by a guy named Andy Welch. And just a footnote, Andy created the weatherman green screen where you move the storm around. That was his patent. He created the X's and O's on Monday Night Football. That was his patent. He was kind of a godfather of overlay, you could say. The method and the strategy was the pixel edge shape of objects in a video. So when you see something like, let's say it's a purse, just as an example, it has a unique shape. Identifying that through artificial intelligence, and then drawing the pixel edge to make it interactive was one of the core components to what really was the essence of what makes KERV unique. But as we blossomed out, and some of our team, specifically Marika Rock, who came from that whole Austin group as COO, she helped us to blossom out really what is a very vibrant demand-side platform at this point, where we take any video from a client, import it in, make it interactive, and distribute it agnostically across the landscape, the digital programmatic landscape. And then we capture all the data around it. So what we do is very different than what other people may perceive as interactive video or things that sit on a web page and need pre-production requirements or are limited in their capability. Our AI is really the core of our unique function.
So cool. And so who are your clients today? Because everything is video. So who's really coming knocking on your doors?
Pretty much all the major holding companies and ad agencies. We're dealing with all of them. And I don't want to name one because other people will be offended I didn't name them. Right. Everybody, all the top brands, all the top companies. And we've even created something really cool, which is a TikTok integration. And we're actually rolling that out now. Where TikTok, we've integrated the automation of an interactive ad creation. So clients who don't have the tech team or the capability of doing these things, we completely do a turnkey for them. So creating an interactive ad on TikTok has become a real, as you can imagine, a big valuable thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. And so obviously you've had a really remarkable, amazing career. Talk to me about a time when it was not so remarkable and you didn't think you'd be able to find your way through, and then you did.
Yeah, so we all have the history of looking in the couch for nickels, you know? So,
yes.
So when I left Western media and started doing this thing called the internet, it was a struggle. And I was really trying to find my way of where do I fit in this digital ecosystem that's blossoming. And when I created the company Name Media with a really amazing team that I put together, great people, we endured the dot-bomb implosion. We endured all the stuff that the digital environment went through. And we made it through by being nimble, by being able to pivot, by being able to really roll with the market and not think we have all the knowledge, but think that we need to fit in the ecosystem of this digital environment. And there were times where, you know, I didn't take money and I had to not eat to pay the team. And there was a lot of struggle that went through that. It was 14 years of growth, but we ended up with 70 people and selling to a big billion-dollar company, and it worked out well for us. But it's the heart of an entrepreneur that really drives this kind of hunger to be able to endure that sort of thing. It's not for the faint of heart. And it's
no, it is not.
9 to 5-er, that's for sure.
It definitely is not for the faint of heart. It is a very wild. We're 12 years into having our own agency, and you learn a lot about what you're able to do and how strong you can be, and resilience is sort of the key. aspect of it all, because you'll have those moments where you're like, what in the world have I done?
I mean, it's really it's the rewarding nature of it is unmatched. I mean, it's when you build something from nothing, right, and really create something that has value, it's such a satisfying feeling. It's so rewarding. And yeah, the struggles and the pains and the hurdles and the negatives and all the people, the naysayers and friends and family who say, you need to go do something else, all that stuff. If you have it in your heart, I say stick with it and run. The failures are just a learning curve. That's all.
They really are. It's just, you want to be like, okay, how do I do this? How do I ever make this happen? But then, you don't lose, you learn. And like, that's kind of the kind of key points about it. So, okay, we're in 2022. There's this thing called COVID that has rocked our industry. How were you all able to navigate, pivot, grow, stretch, change over the last 2 years?
Good question. So it's interesting. In the first part of 2021, when all this was happening, we had a lot of clients that pulled back on their strategies and said, we need to revisit what we're doing. So it made it a little difficult. We were able to make it through, though, with enough good, loyal customers and quality of product to start expanding out into that digital experience. So the online transactional value is really what became hugely valuable, as you know. And KERV fits that like a glove, where it becomes a video experience that allows for either a click to or right in the video transaction, proved to be an asset to a lot of these companies that were struggling with their brick and mortar and trying to figure out where they fit in this new digital ecosystem. As things blossom with digital transactions, we're seeing more and more through 2021 and into 2022, even 2019 blossoming that out. But in 2022 now, we're seeing everybody gets it. There's no mystery that the digital transaction is king. And it's now moving forward in a freight train force in all layers of media. So we're expanding out in that as well into OTT and CTV and getting it deeper into social with an interactive ad content. All the evolution of it now is blossoming. So I think the COVID liability for us allowed us to do a pivot and look at different opportunities and expand out into all these other mediums to grow it, because the advertisers were asking.
And now they're like, please help us, please.
They are, and it's working well. I mean, it's funny. I spoke, is it 2.5 years ago now at NAB, where I said, consumers are going to get subscription fatigue in OTT and streaming. Mom is not going to pay for 10 services for Junior to watch cartoons or movies. It's just not going to happen. So they're going to start getting selective. And at that point, the nature of the Peacocks and the Hulus and the Amazons and the Netflix and all of that, it starts getting to be polluted. And consumers, as we know, are sick of interstitial lines. So where it's going to land, in our opinion, and I say that humbly, in our opinion, is in show monetization, i.e. interactive content. So where you have a show, there may be a scene shot in Bali, right? Well, maybe there's a tourism company that wants to buy that interactive capability. When the consumer says, well, where is that location? They can click it, learn, and even go book something. So there's a lot of, I think, evolution that we're going to see in where this world is going.
You know what's crazy? I was a sophomore in the year 2000, I'm trying to remember. And I had a professor at NYU named Michael Rosenblum. And he had this project idea called Shadow TV. And it was basically the same thing. This is 20 years ago, where you could, while you're watching that baseball game or watching that cooking show, like, I really like that La Crusette Pat, I will scroll over and I will buy it. And that was 20 years ago. And it's just fascinating to me how, like, the ability to be able to buy while I'm watching TV is only now finally getting to a point where it's user friendly.
Yeah, it's the road where we are now that got here is littered with skeletons of companies who are trying to do it, and it's not. In all honesty, it's not an easy task. I mean, we've spent millions of dollars, many millions of dollars, building a platform that has the capability of doing real-time object recognition and product correlation to create that interactive experience and have it accurate. That's a difficult lift, very difficult. And I think that what we're seeing now is that the consumer, look, how many people, if you go and ask friends, have you ever watched a show and wondered, wow, where can I get those shoes? Or where can I get that couch? Or things like that. Everybody's going to say, yeah, that's happened to me. So it's an organic evolution of the consumer behavior. It isn't really us trying to force something to happen. It's simply enabling an existing desire.
Well, that's the thing, you want to buy stuff. And, I mean, I look at what's happening right now with, and Just Like That on HBO with the new Sex and the City reboot. And yeah, I want to buy everything. And this is the thing. It's one of those. It's actually one of those shows where you're like, why isn't this a thing on this show? Because I follow every account around the fashion for the show because I'm one of those women, and there's like a Instagram account that basically will kind of figures out what everything is and like shows the price and where you can buy it, and like, but it's like a person doing that, and so like they're just trying to catch up with the episodes to do all of that, but there's so many pieces of clothing, and I'm like, really? There's no way for me to like scroll over that bag that Carrie has. Clearly it's Gucci, Balenciaga. Like, just take me to the place and let me buy from there. And
100%.
actually at a premium because I bought it on TV. So like, because that, like, there's a certain inventory for while you watch. Because those things sell out fast. So basically, in order, the only way to get it, I mean, there's so many ways you could make this more a monetized strategy where you're able to make even more money by like allowing people to like, that's the only way you can buy this is if you watch the show.
Right.
Like these are
you're so spot on. And then take it to music and music videos, which is a dying industry in essence. The only way they're making money anymore is with streaming and touring, right? And paraphernalia and their merch. So you start evolving this and start thinking about the evolution and change in where entertainment has gone. So entertainment went from, let's take music as an example, selling vinyl to CDs, and now streaming and making pennies, fractions of a penny. Right? They need a new revenue stream. So it's so obvious that the world is going here, and we're happy to be at the forefront of really trying to lead that. And with our patents, we've got a good hook on a lot of the capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so bullish on it because again, we create experiences, and so like it sort of like dovetails into the stuff that we do. But like when you're doing a live event, there again, you should be able to on demand buy the things that you're seeing up on the screens that we're showing. Like that should just be a box you check as a given.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, and like I hope to see it soon because I'm like, how we're viewing it. I mean, we did 75 virtual events in the last 2 years, and same thing. It's like that was for brands of products and such, and you're like, this should not be hard anymore.
Yeah.
Like we can, like people are going to fake space for giggles right now. So.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting evolution, but it's just now really at the point where you can take a live stream. We can do our recognition correlation within the 6-second cuss delay. When you have streaming, it's an even longer delay. So it really is, it's a new path that people are just starting to realize is an opportunity. And it's really fun to watch when we have meetings with people and content owners and even brands, when their eyes open up and they go, whoa, wait a minute, you mean I can blank? You know? And then it's like, yeah, we can do that for you. It's been a lot of fun to watch the growth.
And so, doing all this great work, and obviously it's busy, it's time consuming, and we're in the middle of a pandemic still. Like, what does Gary do for self-care?
Self-care, let's see. That's something I'm not sure I have time for with two little kids. I have kids 8 and 10 years old. And my world is completely obsessed with dealing with them and baseball and coaching little league and really being a family guy. That's my off time is about the family and having fun with it. Truth be known, that the greatest gift you could have is your children and your family, and it's a big part of who I am, and I truly enjoy that.
Aw, cool. Okay, so you're a baseball dad. So are you now traveling to the tournaments as well, and like plugging everybody into the car and getting everybody ice cream after the fact when they win or lose?
Pizza, ice cream, all of it. Yeah, I'm on third base going, run home, go.
That's awesome. And I think that's the key about all of this is like we've all had a chance to reassess what matters over the last couple of years, and family and friends are the ones that it means the most, and you have to hold on to that and and keep that first place. So that's a great answer on self-care, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a difficult time, and it's especially with young kids and school and COVID and all the things that happened, all the Zoom schooling, and we actually were lucky enough to create pod classes where we actually, with a group of parents, hired certified teachers and created our own little mini school through the whole
Oh, wow.
of the pandemic. Yeah. And it just proved so valuable because our kids maintained social contact. They maintained interaction with other kids. They had a physical teacher talking to them in person and helping them. And it proved to be the smartest move we could do. And our kids the effect on our children was a positive, not a negative. And many of the kids that were stuck in Zoom, it's sad that it's a struggle for a lot of parents. It's difficult for the kids, and it's not easy on the teachers. It was not a good time.
Yeah, look, I have so many, friends who have little kids, and how are you all doing this? Oh my God, I feel so bad. And it's great that you were able to come up with a solution that worked for you all, because I know how tough it can be. So yeah, we're all just trying to navigate this. Like, everybody has a different weird experience, and no one's going, you know what, this has been great. Like, everyone's like, this is terrible. Like, how do I get us out of it? But not so much. And I was saying someone earlier, like, it's not about going back to normal. It's just getting back. It's going to a normal, because we're never going to go back to where the way it was ever again. It's going to be a normal that works for us in the world that we live in today.
Well, I think there's also,
because we've all been so drastically changed.
Yeah, that's so true. But I think there's also your point of people started realizing what mattered. So like all these people that are now looking at the small home trend, and even the people that are in the campers traveling, doing their gigs on digital through Wi-Fi. I think people have opened up more now to really appreciate the life experience rather than just the drudge of the day-to-day.
Yeah, I think it's giving you an opportunity to be like, you know what, I can do things this way. What I thought I had to do, like, you had to travel to this place. Well, no, I can just throw this up on Zoom, I can throw this up on some sort of other live streaming platform, and then just do this. I don't have to do all that traveling. Think of all the work travel we've all done over the last several years. And now it's like, yeah, I only have to travel when I really, really, really want to. versus, thinking that you had to be on a plane every other week in order to get
Yeah.
stuff done and meet with clients and do all the things.
Well, here we are on a podcast that we're doing through the internet, and
Exactly.
And your whole podcast, your whole thing is through it's just brilliant, that this can happen. We can share and interact with other people through a digital environment. I think it's brilliant.
It's such a really unique time, and it's cool because the interesting thing about the podcast is it's afforded me an opportunity to meet so many different people who I probably wouldn't have had a chance to, because I was only doing this in person, because this used to just be an in-person podcast. But like, as a result of the pandemic, it's actually been a really awesome opportunity to meet folks from all around the country, some also all around the world, who are doing really awesome and interesting things. So, you take all the lessons that you've learned from this experience, and it's like, all right, we're in a good spot.
Yeah, we're in an interesting place technologically. I mean, you start looking at things like Starlink that Elon Musk is doing, and global internet without any restriction, and you start really looking at where is all of this headed, and it's metaverse and the experience of that. My 10-year-old is an Oculus wizard. I mean, he shows me things on a daily basis that I never knew existed. And it's so amazing where we're headed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's exciting to see where we're headed. I think I've always loved technology. I always will. And I think what we can do next is the most fascinating part of all of this. And so I'm super excited about where we're headed and where we can get to.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at like the combination of NFT, crypto, and metaverse, and you're creating a non-regional, non-governmental environment of experience and transaction outside of the norm. And this is not going away. This is only blossoming.
Yeah, it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow some more. So yes. I think you just have to kind of like knock out of the park. So last question for you. Do you have a give or an ask of the audience?
Wow. Yeah, I think, you know what? I would ask the audience to be a kinder, gentler society, to be all-inclusive, to be a place where we all would appreciate and enjoy and be proud to be a part of. I think that in these times, both politically, both socially, and all the components of things going on, people need to be kinder. And I think that the human nature of that will virally grow on its own. So I think that would be my ask of your audience.
I think that's a great ask, Gary, and necessary.
Yeah.
You've just got such an amazing story, Gary, and I could keep on talking for hours. I'm fascinated, and I want more Clive Davis stories. But thank you so much for being part of the show. We'll drop all the details in the show notes so folks can find out more about what you're up to. And thank you so much. This was such a great conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure, Lauren. Thank you for having me. I enjoy listening to your podcast.
Thanks so much. And that is our show.